We're going to go through a number of remembrances today. We'll have a message by Pastor John from the church here at Zion Church. I'd like to start off with Mrs. Shirley Hardwick. She's a family friend that has known my parents for years and years and years. So if Shirley could come on up now.
When I heard that Dorothy had passed, a lot of different feelings came to my mind. Thankful that she had gone to heaven, to her forever home. God's always preparing us, if not one way, another way. Physically, I'm getting prepared for my eternal home. Our bodies age. We can't do what we used to do. And that helps me to look almost with anxiousness to get to my forever home. I'm so thankful that Lance and Dorothy and my husband are all there. When I was asked to speak about Dorothy and our relationship, right away I thought of the four of us, because Lance and Dorothy became a very important part of our family. I think it was in the early 50s, maybe mid-50s, when we met at State Fair Church of God in Detroit. At one point, someone approached my husband about being a scoutmaster. The church, the other scoutmaster had retired and they needed someone. And my husband said yes. I said, oh, he hadn't been a scout even. So I thought, oh boy, this should be interesting. Well, he asked Lance, hey Lance, would you help me have this troop? And of course Lance said yes. I thought, okay, this should be even more interesting now. They did well. The first time they had a camp out, my husband got an old army tent and the cots and a few other things and sleeping bags for the guys, and they camped out. Well, when they came home, they asked Dorothy and I, would we go camping with them? And we thought, whoa, I don't know about this, because we heard a little bit about their experience camping. I don't know what ever made us say yes, but we said, okay, we do that. I remember our first time camping together. It was up in the Thumb in some state park. I don't remember the name.
Sleeper State.
Probably. And this big old army tent went up, and you know how they smell inside, the oily, awful. And they managed to get up a little sheet or something so we'd have two rooms. And the place was almost bare. You know, you could choose almost any lunch you wanted to up there. It was before camping was popular, you understand. And we did our thing, and the guys pulled up a picnic table for us, and we had a little Coleman stove there and a little cooler, and that was our kitchen. And so we were really, and they put up the cots and everything, we got all set up, we thought. And we started to cook, and we soon realized that this wasn't going too well. In fact, at one point, we caught the Coleman stove on fire, Dorothy and I. And we called the guys. I think we went out to eat that evening. Oh, those are good memories, though. I don't know, we thought we could try it again, and we did. And as the years came and went, we would, get a little better at camping and getting better equipment, and the park started to get full, and Dorothy always wanted to be close to the bathrooms and the water, and that turned out to be a good thing. I found out. I questioned it at first, but as my kids came along, I realized that was a good thing. We even grew. We even had other families join us. We talked them into coming and trying it, and they did, and they seemed to like it too. Well, all along, Lance and Dorothy and Bob and myself stayed close. We played bridge together. They love bridge. I think Dorothy was even a bridge club, if I remember, so she was, you know, had control of that whole thing. I'm glad she was my partner. Because the three of them kind of knew something about it, and I didn't, but I learned. And Dorothy, when we first met at the church, I do remember I was asked to be chair of the Christian Ed Committee. And I knew that Dorothy was a smart gal and organized and all. And I said, Dorothy, could you serve as secretary of my committee? She said, sure. She did a wonderful job. Very dependable, upbeat. I don't know how she handled all she handled in her life, but she did. And without upsetting her or talk about it, she just did what she needed, felt she had to do. And I remember when we'd go camping, Lance would always bring out this big chart. You kids would remember this, the chore chart. And she had it all figured out, and all the kids had their jobs to do, and I thought, ooh, that's good. I never had, of course, I just had two kids, so I didn't have many like she did. Anyway, we had many good times. We played bridge at the campsite. We played bridge on the beach. And we, as the kids got older, we tried to find those campsites where they had in the afternoon crafts, so the kids go off to their crafts, and we could stay and play bridge. Oh my goodness, those were good times. I think that's what's important about moments like this, that we can share the past and the good times we've had together. And still, even though things get hard sometimes, that's part of life. And just to really enjoy and appreciate those around us. And Lance and Dorothy were certainly high on our list until they moved to Indiana. Remember when they moved to Anderson, Indiana? Well, they called us down and we went down to visit, I think just once, to check them out. Well, soon they were back in Royal Oak, and then we were close again. And then they moved to Troy, and we were even closer because we lived in Troy. And then the sad news when they decided to go south, and we rarely saw them after. I think the last time I saw Dorothy and Lance, several years back at the garden tour. You know, she belonged to the garden club. In fact, I think she started the Troy Garden Club evening, and they called it Evening Primrose, because she worked during the day. And she said, Shirley, they should have an evening group. I said, you're right, Dorothy. So she started it. Anyway, Lance was pushing her in her wheelchair, and we happened to see them there. And it was wonderful connecting again. I think that's the last time I saw both of them together. I thank God for Lance and Dorothy. Part of my life, part of my husband's. My husband's been gone for 8 years now. And lately it says we're losing more and more of our old friends. But we'll meet again when we get to our forever home. I send my blessings and prayers for especially you kids. Yes, I remember each of you in special ways. When you were young and getting a little bit older. God bless you each. God bless everyone here. Thank you.
Thank you, Shirley. Yes, let me adjust this a little bit. Okay, what we have now too is each of Dorothy's children's families will get a chance to have a representative talk. And so now we're going to go to Linda Farrell's, her first child's family, and that remembrance will be provided by Katie Chivers. Thank you. Well, it's Linda's third child, yes.
I knew what you meant,
She knows that, though.
right? Sometimes it feels like I'm the oldest. Bear with me as I'm reading words that were written for me, representing my mom who couldn't be here today. Today there will be another time of mourning and also of peace. Mom's memory returns, and we are left with our memories. Dad, Mom, and Jim are reunited. Mom was always proper while I was growing up. She would never be caught without her face on, from mascara to lipstick. Even though we always went camping for vacations, always. She didn't even get her first pair of jeans until she was 35. Perfection was always her goal, no matter what the task. Once a week, she had her hair done, even while we were on vacation. I remember when she'd wrap her hair up at night to preserve her hairdo, even in a tent. I have a picture that I've always carried with me in my mind when talking about camping. It's Mom coming out of the pop-up in her robe, carrying her makeup kit, walking to the restroom. First thing in the morning, her face needed to be on to start the day. My other favorite mental picture, I took Mom and 2 daughters out jeeping on Sand Road in Caseville. Sand Road, also known as Head Chopper Road, is an unimproved seasonal road that was a favorite of our whole family. We flew through the trees, bouncing, laughing, and setting all of the puddles free. We did this until the Jeep met the puddle that won, and we were stuck. My daughters Tammy and Megan climbed over the windshield and across the hood, stepping off into knee-deep water. They hiked a mile back to find a house with a phone. AAA was called, and they hiked back. In the meantime, Mom and I waited and waited and waited until nature called. And here comes my mental picture. My mother, dressed impeccably in all white, following the example of the girls, climbing over the windshield and over the hood into knee-deep water. It was definitely a moment. Later in her life, she loosened up. It was a total shock to us when one day she swept the kitchen floor and didn't sweep under the rug. When I questioned her about it, she said it never got dirty underneath, so why bother? We were boggled. After 5 kids, we finally broke her down. She will be missed, but quality will now return to her. They will all rest in peace now.
All right, thank you, Katie. That was very good. You know, your mom did a great job with that. She did a great job. Okay, now we'll go to Sandra Hall, or Sandy, who's her 3rd child, or 2nd daughter. Could easily have been given by Kristen, as you'll see when Jennifer provides her mom's portion. But Kristen's not with us today because she's watching her newborn baby, which I just found out about. That's great. Congratulations. So without further ado, Sandra Hall.
Thank you all for being here today. This is hard. I don't usually wear leopard print. It's a shout out to Mom. She loved leopard print, lilacs, lavender, the color purple, her family, and her friends. The gates of heaven opened and welcomed a new angel home. Alzheimer's took so much away from her and from all of us. But through God's grace, this cruel disease has been stripped from her. She's now strolling all over heaven, reuniting with family and friends. I miss Mom, even though at times it felt like she was already gone. It was hard seeing her decline and become bedridden. It was like we lost her twice. Once when Alzheimer's slowly took away her ability to communicate, to do things for herself, to feed herself, and again in November when she passed. I remember Mama was one of Mom's favorite books when she was young. I don't remember ever calling her Mama, but I do remember Mom. She was always so active, always working on something. She was a master gardener, an excellent cook, and she could sew anything. She loved working on her crafts. She made clothes for us when we were growing up as good as anything you'd see in a store. She could do anything she put her mind to. One time, Penny, our dog, tore a big hole in the pop-up camper. Mom drug her sewing machine out to the driveway and fixed it. She had the best flower beds and loved decorating for the holidays. She could bake and decorate a cake better than Sanders. She was an excellent cook. Salmon patties, stuffed pork chops, baked macaroni and cheese, chicken and dumplings. We were very well fed. We did not have caller ID when we were young, but you didn't need it. If the phone was ringing when you came home after school, it was Mom, making sure you got home from school okay, and if you didn't have homework, you were to get a bucket and a screwdriver and go out and weed the front yard. I remember Mom and shopping. The day after Christmas shopping was almost an endurance contest. Who could keep up with Mom? We'd get there to downtown Hudson's when it opened, 7 o'clock in the morning, and we would head for wrapping paper and decorations to stock up for the next year. You had to walk quickly to keep up. I remember hearing some of the younger relatives, Katie, Megan, on their first trip asking, does she always walk so fast? In 1968, when the Tigers won the World Series, Mom picked Kathy and me up from guitar lessons. She had Carolyn in the car, left Jeff with Kathy's mom. I don't know why she did this. This was very much out of character for her. But instead of heading home, she turned south and drove to Detroit. We were in the middle of the celebrating. People were lining the streets. And she was just enjoying this so much. It was very not like Mom. I remember the Mom ponytail. Wow. She would get your hair so tight you couldn't move your eyebrows. It was like instant plastic surgery. Cars back in the day had one long seat in the front with no console. It was a bench. And whenever Mom and Dad went anywhere, she sat in the middle right next to him. I never thought this was odd. I never really thought about it until one day a friend mentioned it. Most of our parents' friends sat by the door, not next to each other like that. My friend said, I hope when I'm old, I'll do that with my husband. I hope I'll want to sit next to him like that. And Mom certainly was a product of her generation. Certain things were appropriate and other things were not. Going to the store without your makeup and your hair properly combed was not appropriate. I do not remember her ever leaving the house without her hair in place and fresh lipstick on. Years later, she did learn to enjoy jeans and sweatshirts. I remember Mom carrying Carolyn across the rickety-rackety bridge because Carolyn was afraid she was going to fall through the slats, and Carolyn hated the grasshoppers. I remember her devastation when Jim passed away. Mom had rules. Stand up straight, and she'd push her knuckle into your spine. Get the hair out of your eyes. And one of my favorites, if it's your birthday, you get to pick the menu and everybody has to eat what you want. I was about 6 or 7, and I requested cream chip beef with peas on rice. Apparently, Mom, Dad, and I were the only ones that liked this. If looks could kill, I'd have fallen over right there. I did get some useful information from this, though. Pick something everyone likes, or when it's their turn, they'll pick something you hate. She was a wonderful grandma. One year when Kristen's dad was stationed in Korea, I rented a house in Madison Heights. Mom signed Kristen up for tap dancing classes. She'd pick her up from school, take her to tap dancing, and then they'd go to dinner, and sometimes shopping. Another time when Kristen and Jen were in ninth grade I think, she took them to New York City for a week. This was one of Kristen's favorite trips ever. I remember Mom loved to play cards, canasta, hand and foot, phase 10, pinochle, bridge, Mexican train wreck. For Christmas one year, Kristen made her a game bag, large enough to hold a variety of card games and decorated with purple boa feathers. Mom left that bag in the car so she'd always be ready if there was time for a game. I'm not sure how she did it. She worked full time. She kept the house clean, she kept us well fed, and she still had time to plan the every other weekend trip to Caseville in the summer. Starting with Memorial Day, we'd head to Sleeper State or Port Crescent, and we would do this every other weekend throughout the summer, through Labor Day. We'd come back late on Sunday, and she would somehow get everything put away and cleaned up, and she would be ready for work Monday morning. She was a good mom, a good wife, a good grandmother and friend. She loved her kids, and she really loved her grandchildren. She did her best to make sure we became productive members of society. She made sure to not let on which of her children was her favorite. I know I was in the top 5.
Thank you, Sandy. You captured a lot of great thoughts there and great memories. Okay, one of the songs that she really liked a lot was a song called Somewhere in Time. So Jonathan, her grandchild, is going to play that now. Thank you, Jonathan. That was great. And if you heard the music before, the introductory music, that was played by her grandson, Michael Carruthers. He did a fantastic job with that as well. Okay, now I'd like to turn it over to Pastor John from Zion Church here in Troy. He's going to say a few words, and then we'll continue with the remembrances. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. It's a real honor to be here. It's a real opportunity. I met Dorothy for the first time after they had returned from Florida and moved back. It made me think they probably loved snow and ice, and so they came back up to Michigan to participate with us in this wonderful weather we have. So I hope you're all doing well with it. But it was a time that Dorothy was already in her wheelchair, as Shirley had shared, and her communication was okay. It was there. I could talk with her. I'd like to just share for a moment about your grandfather, your father. He's an example to me. He would continuously stay by her side. He was continuously watching over her. He was continuously in love with his wife. He was focused. Here at Zion, we have a lot of married couples. I'm not sure we have any men who take care of their wives the way your grandfather, your father, took care of your mother or your grandmother. He was concerned. He was in love. Dorothy was struggling. Dorothy was struggling because, as Shirley shared, as she came up here, as we experience more of life and as we grow more mature, this is going through some changes. This clay vessel seems to adjust and do things differently than it did before. And as Dorothy was going through those changes, she was a little frustrated, a little disappointed that they were happening. And Lance wanted her to just relax and just take opportunity with each and every day as they walked through. And so as Shirley has said, I'd like to just share a few thoughts with you, a few things that have been shared. I'm impressed with the family. The examples that you set, the way you speak, the way you carry yourselves, I see Lance. I see it from your family. And the way you've described Dorothy with her hair done and her makeup on and camping that way, are you kidding me? I used to camp, and there's no way you do those things. But you carry the same quality. It's interesting how we carry through life, the things that the parents have. My wife says you have your dad's genes. My dad was much bigger than me. His jeans would never fit me, but somehow I'm carrying something of his, okay? And you do too. There's a scripture that Paul shared with the church at Corinth. The church at Corinth was just a normal church. It was a city. Corinth was a city probably not too much different than Detroit or Atlanta or the different cities you've come from. And the struggles they were going through with their lives and what they were going through and experiencing life. And the Apostle Paul said to them, therefore we do not lose heart. You know, Lance had the ability to carry on with his life and his family, and he didn't lose heart. Even though our outward man is perishing, yet the inward man is being renewed day by day. For our light affliction, which is but for a moment, is working for us a far more exceeding and eternal weight of glory, while we do not look at things which are seen, but at things which are not seen. For the things which are seen are temporary, but the things which are not seen are eternal. There's different translations of the Bible, and I always hesitate to teach from one which is called the Message, but I do use it because I think it brings a quality that needs to be expressed sometimes, that needs to be shared, that needs to be shown. And so I'd just like to share with you the translation that is called the Message of those same scriptures. I think it's apropos to this time. That same verse, those same verses goes like this. So we're not giving up. How could we? Even though on the outside it often looks like things are falling apart on us, on the inside where God is making new life, not a day goes by without his unfolding grace. These hard times are small potatoes compared to the coming good times, the lavish celebration prepared for us. There's far more here than meets the eye. The things we see now are here today, gone tomorrow, but the things we can't see now will last forever. As you, as a family, have experienced and are realizing, and I also realize that Lance went home 2 years ago, and it's kind of a very much a an anniversary that the two of them are so close, and at this season, that grief becomes part of this. But let me just share with you that grief never ends, but it changes. It's a passage, not a place to stay. Grief is not a sign of weakness or lack of faith. It's the price of love. It's the price of love. And because of the love for Mom and Dad, the love for Dorothy, for those individuals, that's why we've gathered here. We've come to honor and recognize and realize that life does go on. And those passages those steps that we take, those tents that we walk through that have that awful smell, those things that we travel through and take life on, those that go ahead of us and head to that eternal reward we lose, but it's part of what life is, designed by God. It's not something that comes easy because we were never designed to lose our life. We were to live eternally. There's an eternal life that God has designed for us. That eternal life is something that is part of what we cry out for. That same Apostle Paul to that same church at Corinth expressed it this way: for we know if our earthly house, this tent, is destroyed, we do have a building from God, a house not made with hands. It's eternal in the heavens. For in this we groan, earnestly desiring to be clothed with our habitation, which is from heaven. We do have a future. We do have an eternal life. And I hear in this family, and I know from Lance and from Dorothy, that they had a deep dependence, a deep trust, and a deep confidence in their Lord. Their faith was strong. Their faith was evident. Their faith showed through the lives that they lived, the style that they walked, the way that they presented themselves, the confidence that they came into life with, the way they handled adversity. Because it is a God of love, that strengthens us through those valleys, over those hills, across the depths, until we come into his presence and walk with him. There is a time, there is a place that we come to, and is death something so horrible, so unreliable, it's a hard word. I'll come to it sometime, but death is such a darkness for us, and I don't want it to be there. I've seen death too often to believe in death. I really don't. It's not an ending, but a withdrawal. As one who finishes a long journey, stills the motor, turns off the lights, steps from the car, and walks up to the path to the home that awaits them. That's all that happened with Dorothy. She stilled the motor. She shut off the lights, and she walked up the path. To be in the presence, the Bible says, to be absent from the body is to be present with the Lord. To meet Lance, to meet her son, to meet those that she has known for so long. Dorothy's okay. Lance is okay. I'm confident their thoughts, not that I really believe they're thinking of us, but I do believe they kind of watch over us. But I believe their prayer for you and their love for you and their extension to you is one of stay the course, don't lose heart, finish the race, complete it. Do all you know to do to accomplish everything that God has given to you. Let me pray. Father, I thank you for your faithfulness to the Carruthers family. Lord, as you ordain life, as you initiate life, as you sustain life, and Lord, as you give us a finish that brings us into your presence, all you ask is that we should recognize you and know that you exist. To understand that because of your love for us, you sent your son. And your son came in obedience to you and gave his life. And he said, any believe in me, even though they die, they should live forever. Lord, I pray that you make yourself real, so real to this family in their time right now, that through this season and future seasons of memories and pictures and memorabilia and different thoughts, that you would show yourself so strong to them, that their faith would rise above their grief, that concern would be pushed aside by confidence, that stress would be released in a peace of God that surpasses all understanding. And that, Father, your love would fill their lives. May they draw together as family, to stand together, not to loose the leadership and lose the leadership of mom and dad, but to gather it and pull it together and stand together in the future, in the times to come. Walk together, encouraging each other, uplifting each other, and sustaining each other. Father, I thank you for it. I thank you for all of us who have had the opportunity to have a relationship with Lance Carruthers and Dorothy Carruthers. Lord, they were examples. They were gifts. They were blessings that you put into our lives at different times, at different seasons. But Father, what they set before us is an example to us. May we apply it, may we imitate it, and may we walk in that knowledge of you, which gave them the confidence and the surety to take on life. Father, I thank you for all of that. In Jesus' name, amen.
Okay, thank you, Pastor John. Okay, we now move to Carolyn Carruthers Heights family, and her daughter, Dorothy's granddaughter, Jen Jonganil, will present the remembrance.
My grandmother was, excuse me, my grandmother was one of the most passionate and loving people I've ever had the privilege of knowing. Her loves and passions were varied. As many of you know, she loved her garden, even earning the honor of Master Gardener. I had the joy of helping with these gardens every summer, a task I would not appreciate until I had a garden of my own. She always seemed so at peace with her hands deep in the dirt, surrounded by the beautiful flowers she had brought to life. Her joy was palpable as we got to watch her prized night-blooming primrose bloom one gorgeous night. She also loved Gone with the Wind. She was like a kid in a candy store when news broke that they were re-releasing it into theaters. An all-girls event was planned, and it was so much fun getting to be surrounded by the wonderful women in my life, watching a strong and fierce Scarlett O'Hara light up the screen. The soundtrack to Somewhere in Time was also a constant staple whenever you rode in her car. My cousin Kristen loves to tell the story of a time she and I went on some errands with our grandma. As the three of us were about to leave the parking lot of the current stop, a young guy pulled up next to us, his rap music blaring, shaking our car. Instead of fussing under her breath or at him personally, she merely rolled down her windows and blasted the soundtrack louder than the unsuspecting guy could imagine. I still giggle at the smirk she had on her face as she backed the car up, ready to move on to our next stop. Personally, I am glad for her love of shoes for multiple reasons. I used to be the grateful recipient of many of her glorious heeled hand-me-downs, and now sometimes I have too many shoes. Sometimes some people say I have too many shoes. I can honestly say it runs in my blood. I feel I have taken on the role of Imelda Marcos of the family. While she may have loved all the fun about life, what she loved most was her family, and she showed it in the most unique ways. One of my most prized possessions from my childhood is this huge memory book she made me and Kristen. We didn't live close to our grandparents growing up, so we would spend a few weeks during the summer with them. One summer, she decided to document everything we did. Each day had a journal entry of everything we did. Pictures were taken, even one showing the torture of ponytails, and little mementos from our various activities such as Vacation Bible School. She showed her love in teaching how to be ladies and how to be elegant hostesses. Kristen and I thought it was the greatest thing ever to set up a fancy dinner as secret between the three of us. She showed her love in the constant baking of fresh bread. The bread was finished cooking almost as soon as we were done eating the previous loaf. It was seen in the way she took care of her mother in the last years of her life. There are two pictures seared into my mind that showed her profound love for her family. One picture shows a mega smile as she realized my mom and Aunt Sandy had surprised her by showing up to a family dinner at the Sweden House. The next picture is a picture taken outside a unique eatery in Georgia called the Farmhouse. She can be seen with the same smile as she sits on a tree swing being pushed by her adoring husband. Their love was real, or what people would say is relationship goals. And it was her love for him and her family that was the glue uniting this large, crazy, wonderful family. I will miss her every day, but I know she was wanting and waiting to hear my grandfather say, "Oh, Doe, how I've missed you."
Thank you. Those were great words. You rock. I think Kristen would have echoed those words. Give me one moment to get all set up here. I told Sandy I brought just a couple props. So, okay, good morning. Well, we've heard some wonderful remembrances of our mother, grandmother, friend. Interestingly, I offer a entirely different perspective. Okay, when you think about it, after Candy graduated high school and moved on, I assumed my rightful place as an only child for 6 years. It took me a while, but I found no other way to get rid of them until waiting. I had to wait it out. Okay. Also, I was involved in many extracurricular activities. YMCA Indian guides, swimming, baseball. These are just but a few examples. But I never really heard much of my siblings getting involved in anything like that. So I'm assuming perhaps I kept my mother too busy once I was born. I don't know, but that could be the myth. When we began planning our mom's memorial service, I instantly set on the theme of extraordinary encourager. Very extraordinary. She constantly found ways to help others reach their goals, keep moving forward, and become more than they otherwise would. She was amazing. As an example, our mother was a great encourager between my sisters and I. When Linda, my oldest sister, was dating Doug Farrell, my mom encouraged Linda to take me along and babysit me. So that was quality time for Linda, I'm sure. When Sandy and Ed Matthias were home for a visit, before they left to return to Colorado, my mom encouraged them at the last moment to take me with them on the trip. They were also encouraged to take me with them when they went out, with me stuffed in the back seat of the red Fiat. It's about this wide. I have hip dysplasia, okay? That was outstanding, I'm sure. And not to be forgotten, my mom encouraged Candy to keep me busy in Germany for a couple weeks when I was in high school, and she lived there. Wowza, my mother was quite the encourager, okay? On a more serious note, our mom was constantly seeking and finding ways to encourage others. When I was in college, she would send care packages to encourage me. She also bought motivational and inspirational posters and had members of her church sign them. I never knew most of these people, okay? And then she would mail them to me at college. She would send packages to my sisters as well, wherever they were around the world. Well, smaller packages, of course, but packages nonetheless, okay? She was a great letter writer. And you can see from where, like Linda Farrell, the things that was said about her and her comments, it came down through the genes. If you look to your right on the far table, you'll be able to see her journals that start way back when she was very young, and many, many letters that she's written over the years. She was a great letter writer, which is really a continuation of her love of the written word since she was in school. She would write to family members, friends, and businesses. And as I went through some of her things, you come across letters that she wrote to Gunberg and Axel about how her mom was doing. She would write to all of her family members and catch them up on how things were going and what they were doing and changes in their address, and long, long letters. And these weren't Christmas letters. It's 6 months past Christmas, 25 May 1988, dear family. And it goes on for like 5 pages. So she was a prolific letter writer. I swam competitively from age 5 through high school, and our mom was a most rabid fan ever, okay? Even though I couldn't hear her while I was swimming. She never really got that. She never really understood that I really couldn't hear you. She made every effort to try. She would scream and ring a cowbell and cheer. She would cheer, yell, and scream some more. While I might not have heard her, she was likely the reason I did so well. Our mom also had a heart of gold. She frequently participated in programs in which she would sponsor a family in need, either towards the start of school or the holidays. She would either take the child shopping for clothes and things for school, or buy the gifts and donate them to the families that needed it. For instance, this is a article that was, I'm sure, in the Daily Tribune newspaper when we used to get that. Title says, 36 children unlock their Yule dreams, and there's my mom in both pictures, of course, in both pictures, outfitting her sponsored child. So, pretty cool. One of the things my mom kept in her car and often gave to others for theirs was a little angel, and I have the angel, like, one example of it right here, which says, "Never drive faster than your guardian angel can fly." Well, this was clearly a reminder to those that she gave it to. I think it was also a reminder to her. An encouragement to herself to slow down, take a deep breath, and know that she made a difference in many people's lives. Thanks. It's not used, is it? All right, so I want to close with something from the Bible. And if you're familiar with the Bible or been in church, you've undoubtedly heard it. It's 1 Corinthians 13. But as I read it, don't think of Paul as saying it. Think of our mom. Think of Dorothy. Think of your grandmother. If I speak in the tongues of men or of angels, but do not have love, I am only a resounding gong or a clanging cymbal. If I give the gift, I have the gift of prophecy, and I can fathom all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have a faith that can move mountains but do not have love, I am nothing. If I give all I possess to the poor and give over my body to hardship, that I may boast, but I do not have love, I gain nothing. Love is patient, love is kind, it does not envy, it does not boast, it is not proud, it does not dishonor others, it does not self-seeking, it is not easily angered, it keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, it always trusts, it always hopes, it always perseveres. Love never fails, but where there are prophecies, they will cease. Where there are tongues, they will be stilled. Where there is knowledge, it will pass away. For we know in part, and we prophesy in part. But when completeness comes, what is in part disappears. When I was a child, I talked like a child. I thought like a child. I reasoned like a child. When I became a woman, I put the ways of childhood behind me. For now we see only reflection is in a mirror. Then we shall see face to face. Now I know in part, and now I know fully, even as I am fully known. And now these three remain: faith, hope, and love.
but the greatest of these is love. That, I believe, sums up everything about Dorothy, about your friend, about your mother, about your friend, about your grandmother, your great-grandmother. It summarizes everything that she was to everything and everyone she came in contact with. That is how she lived her life. That is how she would want you to be remembered. She gave it all. I think it was Sandy that said, I don't know how she did it all. We talk about that all the time. You know, we have no concept of what it takes to do one more thing, to go farther, to do that extra little thing for somebody. She found more time than God gave her. You know, she invested it in other people and got rewards from it that most of us never ever see. You know, she inspires us to be better. She inspires us to be the best we can be. Before Jonathan closes with the closing song, I remind you again, please make sure you sign the guest book so that we can look back and remember who is here. Please make sure you get a memory card or 2 or 3 and give it to the people that couldn't be here. Put it on your mirror in your bathroom, or, you know, somewhere under, by your place in your work, and remember the things that she strove for, that she provided, that she was able to do for everybody. Come on up here at the end and linger at the photos. If you see one you want, if you see 5, 10, 20 that you want, please take them. There's an album over here that's all about their visits to Scott and Nikki, and I'm sure that would mean something more to somebody here than in a box in my house. Okay? Take pictures off of the boards. Take as many as you want. They're on there lightly for that reason. Visit her writings. If you have a letter of hers, go back and read it sometime. It's amazing, her style and her ability and the way that she was able to put so much love in everything that she said and everything she did. Take pictures to remember her, because that's what she would want. There is a luncheon immediately following the memorial service here, so I invite you all. There's plenty of room for everybody, so please, if you can make it in your calendar, in your schedule, please stay with us and enjoy. All right, Jonathan. Thanks, Jonathan. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our remembrance service today, but please feel free to review the pictures and take any that you want, and look at the things there, and sign the book, and get a memory card. And we thank you so much for sharing today. Thank you.